day to day. We live in such an uncertain times. You don't know whether we're going to be at war one day, we're going to have inflation, whether we're going to fall into economic and financial collapse. You don't know whether or not you're going to have peace in your neighborhood, peace in your life, and in your heart. But it is such an uncertain world. So many things are unpredictable now. And I wanted to talk last week about having a little bit of faith in uncertain times, and then I kind of had a little bit of idea in that vein. But then I also talked about forgiveness, how important that is, how you need to get to a point in your life where you forgive. I'm telling you, when you become a bitter person who's full of resentment and hate and animosity, and you don't have a forgiving spirit, the first thing Jesus did when he was on the cross was he forgave. He said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And I talked about you can't change people because you can only change yourself. You just got to learn how to forgive, because if not, you will allow people to imprison you with your own unforgiveness. And so I really wanted to kind of talk a little bit about that. But today I want to talk about peace. I tell you, peace in uncertain times. And boy, this is a real deep subject, because it is something so many people don't have, and that is peace. Ushers, you may be seated. Let me tell you, peace. Do you know what it is? And do you have it? I want to look at this because we live in a time where people don't have peace. I was looking the other day at how many drugs that they prescribe to people to help them to have peace. You know, if you go to the doctor with anxiety, depression, stress, or anxiety, the first thing they want to do is throw you on some medicine. And that is an indication to me that we live in a world where people do not have peace. Depression, anxiety, stress, people just don't feel settled. We live in such an unstable world, an unsettling world, where the world rocks us. It rocks our faith. It rocks our stability. It disrupts our comfort. And I really wanted to look at this subject because for Christians, we're supposed to be steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord. Did you hear what I said? We're supposed to be steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord. And we're not supposed to be like chaff that the wind can blow and drive away, but we're supposed to be settled in our faith, settled in our peace, and settled in our lives. And because I can tell you, my brothers and sisters, life is going to try to disrupt your peace. People are going to try to disrupt your peace. Listen, even the devil is going to try to disrupt your peace. Peace is important to have, because without peace, you can't really live a comfortable and stable life. If you don't have peace, you'll be all over the place doing a whole lot of different things. Listen, I love one verse in the Bible. I think it's in Thessalonians. It says, if you don't have peace in your life, you'll become a busybody and you'll disrupt the peace in everybody else's life. Because, listen, misery loves company, and people who don't have peace, they tend to cause a whole lot of disruption in the lives of other people. And see, when you got peace, you don't have to worry about nobody else, and you don't let anybody else disrupt your peace. But that Thessalonian text says, when you become a busybody, always in somebody else's business, it's an indication that you don't have peace in your own life. And so I really wanted to talk about this idea of having peace. And then I looked at this story. Now, this story is about three young men. Now, you know this story. You're familiar with this story because you read it even in Sunday school when you were a child. You know the story about three Hebrew boys who were in Babylonian exile under King Nebuchadnezzar. And these three young men, you know the outcome. They were put into a fiery furnace and they came out just the way they went in. But I really wanted to dive into this lesson because it is something else in this lesson that you need to really notice about this story. This story is about God delivering them in a time of chaos and trouble. But if you only look at the outcome, and that is what happened when they went in and what they were like when they came out, you might miss the story of how they were before they went in. And how they were before they went in is they had complete peace. They were good. They were comfortable with themselves. They were three young men living in a place where they did not ask to come, but they were exiled. They were political prisoners or war prisoners brought from their hometown to Babylon to be slaves or to be servants. But let me tell you what these three men did. They preserved their peace. They lived a life of peace in uncertain times. Now let me give you these three things because you really need to see this, because all of the stuff that will disturb your peace is in this text. Everything or anything that will disturb your personal peace is in this text. Now let me give it to you. Let me tell you what's in this text that will disturb your peace. There are rules that other people place in your life. It will disturb your peace. The expectation that other people have on you, it will disturb your peace. It's in this text. And then there are people who are out to get these three young men. That will disturb your peace. When there are people who target you because they don't like you, because you had a previous success that outshined them, because these three men are going to be turned in to King Nebuchadnezzar for not doing what the rules said they ought to do. And that will disturb your peace. And let me tell you this, my brothers and sisters, you got to be careful. Because if you're not careful, people will creep in, unexpected and unaware, and disrupt the peace of your life. Because these three young men had accepted that they were in Babylon. These three young men had accepted that they were servants of Nebuchadnezzar. They had accepted their situation. They had accepted their circumstances. They had accepted their life. And they were embracing the new life that they had from Jerusalem. And now they were in Babylon and they were at peace with it. And just when they were at peace with it, everything fell apart. And I can tell you, my brothers and sisters, your peace can get disturbed when you think you got it all together. When everything is going perfect, because they didn't ask for this situation. They didn't want this situation, but it is what it is. And now they're in it. Now let me tell you, now that they're in it, now how they live in this unpleasant situation. Now they could really be different. They could complain, they could fuss, they could be angry, they could lash out, they could be rebellious. But they decide in this unpleasant situation, they're going to live a life of peace. Let me give you this first thing. This is going to be really profound. Peace is a choice. You choose to be peace. You choose peace. You choose to live a life of peace. In an uncertain time, you got to make a decision that you're going to live a peaceful life and you're going to have peace in your life. You don't let other people choose it for you. You have to choose it. Can't nobody give you peace. You have to choose peace. Because people are going to be peace breakers. Jesus says, blessed are the peacemakers, but people are going to be peace breakers. And so you got to choose peace, because it's a whole lot of peace breakers and not a lot of peacemakers. Folk gonna try to disturb your peace when your life is in a good place, when your mind is settled, and when your heart is made up. There are people that's going to try to disturb your peace. Things are going well. You happy. And then here comes some peace breakers. And that's what happened in this story. And I just want to give you some lessons from this story that's going to help you to have peace in uncertain times. Because I'm telling you, when you got peace, you can come to church no matter what. When you got peace, you can go to work no matter what. When you got peace, you can deal with whoever. When you got peace, you can sit under the pressure that's placed on you, no matter how often it comes, how hard it comes. When you got peace, you can smile on the outside, even though you got a little hurt on the inside. You can smile on the outside, even though you got pain on the inside. And you ain't faking it. Because when you got real peace, you can clean up, dress up, stand up, and just be happy and have joy. Let me give you these lessons. A few of them. It's first Sunday. You know, I know how y'all are on first Sunday. But let me give you these. The first lesson you need to understand, some circumstances in life you have no control over. You'll never have peace if you think you control anything. There's just certain things in your life that you have no control over. And you will never have peace until you accept that fact. These young men did not ask to be put in this situation. They were just in Babylon doing what it was they were doing, and they had been exalted to positions of leadership. They worked in the administration of Nebuchadnezzar. They did not ask for these circumstances, but they had no control over these circumstances. And if you're going to have peace in your life, you have to accept there are certain circumstances to which you have no control over. If you think you can control circumstances, you'll never have peace. In other words, you got to only control you. No circumstances outside of yourself are you going to ever be able to control. In other words, there are some things in your life that are going to happen that's unexpected. And they didn't expect this. They just went to work. And Nebuchadnezzar had erected this 90-foot statue. And they didn't know nothing about all this other stuff. And they just went to work and got to work. And all of a sudden they heard this new policy that he got. This new policy that when the music is played, everybody got to bow to this image. And what they simply said was, I don't think so. They weren't expecting this. They just doing what it was that they do. And you'll never have peace in your life until you get to a point where you understand some circumstances in life, you have no control over them. Let me tell you, now this is really going to get you, Patsy. You might wake up tomorrow and you don't know what tomorrow holds. James says, do not say what you're going to do tomorrow, this, that, or the other, because you don't know what tomorrow holds. Because you could be doing good today and devastation enter your life tomorrow. Your peace is at risk every day. You have no control over over the circumstances in your life.
Yes.
If you're going to have peace in your life, let me give you this. The second thing, don't let anybody make a decision for you.
That's right. That's right.
Man, y'all better get this. See, listen, they decided if the only person that's going to make this decision whether they were going to bow was them and not anybody else. If you're going to have peace in your life, you make sure that any decisions that need to be made in your life, you make it. That's the only way you're going to have peace. Don't make nobody force you to do anything. Don't let nobody put you in a position where you have no choice but to do whatever they say or to do whatever they want. Don't give up your choice. I mean, this is some good stuff because, see, the reason why your life is in chaos, you let somebody choose for you.
That's right.
Go ahead.
And when you let people choose for you, there are so many unknowns. But if I choose for myself, I know the consequences and I'm willing to suffer. I mean, they knew that if they chose to do what it was they did, that there was a price to pay. But at least they made the choice. Do you understand what I'm saying? If you're going to have peace in your life, do not let anybody make a decision for you. You choose. And boy, I don't want to get into this because I really get in your business. See, that's the reason why you don't need to lie. You need to tell the truth. And if you tell the truth, you give me a choice whether or not I want to accept what it is you're saying to me. Just tell me the truth, and if it's some consequences, I'll accept them. But don't lie to me, and then I follow you and make a choice based on the lie. I'd rather for you to tell me the truth and then give me the choice. Because it might be crazy, but I might be into that. I got a friend said he want the woman to tell him he crazy. That she crazy, and because he don't mind dealing with a crazy woman. Just tell the truth. But don't take away my choice. Listen, don't let other people make decisions for you. These three boys, they made the decision not to bow. Everybody else bowed. And three of them stood. And don't let other people make choices for you. I'm almost finished. Let me give you this. If you're going to have peace in your life, don't let anybody make a choice for you. The third thing is this. And you got to really get this. If you're going to have peace in your life, you got to accept God has the final say so. Man.
Yes, sir. Yes.
You got to understand. Listen, I really wanted you to read the text. Daniel chapter 3, verses 16 through 18, because you got to understand what they said. They did not say that God would deliver them. They said that God could deliver them. And see, that's a big difference. They did not say that God would. They said God could. They did not say God would. But they said that God. Y'all got to know when to shout. Because, see, the prosperity gospel will tell you that God will. But what God can do, God don't do all the time because you need him to do it. I just said something and it went over your head. Now, it's some stuff you know God can do. And because God can, don't mean God will. Boy, if God done some stuff that I wanted him to do, boy, my life would be different. I know he can do it, but he don't do it. And you better thank God. Boy, I'm finna say something, and I'm gonna drop this off door to you, because you better pray and thank God that he didn't answer some of your silly prayers, some of your selfish prayers, some of your ridiculous prayers. You better thank God he didn't answer some of your Pray. But you will never have peace until you accept that whatever you pray, whatever you desire, whatever you ask God for, God has the final say-so. Well, I really want to drive down on this point, because you don't realize it ain't that God don't love you, it ain't that God don't care, it ain't that God don't hear you. God just has the final say-so. He makes the last and final decision. You might not like it, but God doesn't really lose no sleep, because he really doesn't sleep or slumber. God has the final say-so. God is going to have the final say-so. You know, Jesus was praying in the Garden of Gethsemane, and he was praying, let this cup pass from me. And he said, but nevertheless, not my will, but thy will be done. Because he knew at the end of the day, God had the final. Now, he wanted the cup to be moved. There's some stuff in your life you want God to move. It's some stuff you want God to fix. It's some stuff you want God to deliver you from. But in the end of the day, he has the final say so. And I want to give you this one. This kind of the same, but it's different. God chooses the results. You don't really know how it's going to work out. Now listen, if you smart enough to know how it's going to work out, what you praying for? You don't know how this thing going to work out when you start praying. And that's the thing about, I'm more mature now. I pray different. I'm like Ralph Webb. When I was a young preacher, I prayed a certain way because I thought I could manipulate and control the end results. But the older I get, I'm careful about what I pray for. Because at the end of the day, the results of how God work it out are going to be left up to God. And see, because really, if it would have been you going into the fiery furnace, you would have never even wanted to go in there. You would have just been praying for God to keep you out. But sometimes God will let you go in, and you don't know how it's going to come out. Some of y'all been into some fiery furnace, and I can tell you this story is descriptive, but there are some prescriptive lessons we need to learn, and that is you might not ever be thrown into a hot fiery furnace, but you've had some fiery furnaces situations. In other words, you went in not knowing how you were going to come. Well, I feel like shouting right now. You went into some situations, if the truth be told, you didn't know how you were going to come out. You didn't even know the results. You went in faith. When you got in it, you were just hoping. And you didn't know how that thing was going to work out. And listen, I almost shouted then. Because some of y'all is on the other side of your fiery furnace experience. And listen, because it worked out for your good and for his glory. God controls the results. I don't know what he's going to do. But if he's going to do something, I'm going to be all right. Whatever he do, I'm going to be all right. I'm going to be all right. Whatever he do. So I can go into some fiery furnace situation, and I don't know what the results of it going to be. Let me give you this. Not only that, but if you're going to have a life of peace, don't be afraid. You're too scared. You're just scared. You're living in fear. You're just afraid of any difficult, hard, unpleasant, unexpected situation. You're too scared. That's why, listen, you'll never, ever have a life of peace if you always walk around scared. You're afraid. If you're afraid and always fearful, you'll never do nothing. You'll never step out on faith. You'll never open doors that are closed. You will never walk in dark places. You will never Do anything that will challenge your life because of fear. You'll never have peace if you're afraid. You're scared. I tell you, some of y'all, you act so, Halloween, you trapped all up in the house. You let a voice that you don't know speak in your house. Boy, you hide under the bed. Fear will disrupt your peace. There's an African tribe, I don't really want to give too many details, but there's an African tribe that wants to display the courage of the men in the tribe. And so what you have to do is you have to walk over live, hot, burning coals. And they say how they do it is they have to overcome the fear factor. In other words, you have to really psych yourself out. And it's not that the fire doesn't burn your feet, but you got to overcome the pain that comes with your feet being burned. I just said something. And see, there are some things that are going to hurt when you go in them and when you get in them, but you got to let your faith and your peace overcome the pain. You got to be willing to walk on hot coals, even though it's going to be painful and unpleasant. But you got to let your peace and faith overcome the fear. And I can tell you this, I don't really want to go there, but let me explain this to you. You can't be afraid. Listen, and then this one, you're not going to be able to have a life of peace and uncertain time if you got fear. But listen to this one, and this is right here in the text. You ain't going to be able to have peace if you talk too much. And see, that's the problem with most of you, talk too much. See, because in this text, they literally told Nebuchadnezzar, listen, we ain't going to talk too much about this. Because we done already made up our mind. And listen, we really ain't got to speak on this. Look at what the text said. They said, we ain't got to have no long conversation and debate with you. This is what we said in verses 16, 17, and 18 is all they spoke. 3 verses. It's really about a paragraph, and that's all they said, and they didn't say nothing else. Your peace, you can talk too much. You talk too much. Always. I'm telling you, you'll never have peace if you talk too much. And let me give you this, and I think I need to really just share this with you since first Sunday y'all been to teach them. Sometimes you can talk too much, you can tell people too much, and they know too much about your business. I mean, some things you need to keep private. You need to keep that in your bosom. You know, everybody want to be out now. Some of y'all need to stay in. If that's your thing, stay in with that. We really don't need to know that. We could go our whole lives, and if we don't know that, we'll be fine. Do I have any witnesses in here? We talk too much. And the reason why your peace is disturbed, not only do you talk too much, you tell too much. You can minimize people in your business and in your life if you quit talking too much and telling. And see, on Facebook, you want to tell everything. You're mad at your mama, you're mad at your husband, you're mad at your dog, you're mad at the woman at the grocery store. You're just mad about everything. And then you wonder why you ain't got no peace. If you keep your life private and keep your affairs private, you will have more peace. And I tell people, even though I'm a public figure, my life is not an open book. You talk too much. You tell too much. I'm going to help some of you young folk under 40. Now, I'm going to tell your silly self something. Now, if you put it on Facebook and folk criticize you and make comments about you, listen, you didn't have to have none of that if you had kept it off Facebook. Now you all emotionally disturbed and upset, and your life is with depression and anxiety. Listen, if you wouldn't have told that, nobody never would have knew you. You talk too much. They didn't talk a lot. You'll never have peace if you talk too much and if you tell too much. And let me give you this. Sometime when God gives you a vision, God tell you something, don't nobody need to know that but you and the Lord. Because when you talk and tell it, your enemies can plot against you. Sometimes you need to be like a step bomber. You need to go under the radar, and God gonna do what he gonna do. You'll never have peace if you talk too much and tell too much. Yeah, you're right. And be careful about these folk want to know who you are. I want to know a little bit about you. Let me give you this one. 3 things, and I'm closing these because these are really the 3 things that I really wanted to kind of close the sermon with. There's 3 things they did that allowed them to have peace in uncertain times. The first thing is they knew God. Because it's one thing to have peace with God, and it's another thing to have the peace of God. But you'll never have the peace of God until you have peace with God. These 3 young men, they knew God. They knew him. And let me tell you, life will present some circumstances to you that if you don't know God, you ain't gonna. You gotta know God for yourself. Man, I tell you, I know the Lord. They start talking that God talk. Well, people don't like me start talking that God talk. Man, I was so hurt yesterday when Alabama lost. Boy, I was hurt. The Bulls, I was hurt watching that game. Boy, I was mad sitting on it. Alabama lost that game. Boy, I was hot. Neil Rose and William, I was just disappointed. Until I heard the Vanderbilt quarterback talk. The boy was a junior college quarterback and he couldn't get a D1 offer, and his dream was always to play in the SEC. And he said that was his dream from a little boy. That's all he always wanted to do. And he tried, and nobody would accept him. And so he finally went to Vanderbilt. And he went to Vanderbilt and got the starting position. And he said, from a little boy, he wanted to play in the SEC. And then he wanted to be like Johnny Manziel, to be the #1 team, a team that's #1. And he said God told him he was going to do it. And on yesterday, he did it. And that boy started talking about God said it. In the interview, this is what he said. God did it. God said it. God did it. Because God might delay his promises, but he don't deny. He may not come when you want. Wait on it. And that boy got to talking about the Lord. I said, no wonder they won. Because when you know God, well, that boy got to talk. And see, you can't really do that on television now. But the first thing he done when they stuck that mic in his face, he started talking about God. God did. And do I have any witnesses in here that God did some stuff in your life? It might have been delayed, but it was not. Everything that happened to me, that was good. Everything that happened to me, that was good. God did. And when you know him, And so when I got to hear that boy talking, I wasn't mad no more. Because see, I know he's telling the truth. When God make a promise, it might be delayed, but it ain't denied. And you right, Brother Clyde. Hey, God did it. Because when you know him, he can do the impossible. So somebody know he can. And so number one failed. And then I was reading some comments this morning, and somebody said Alabama lost from a hospital school. But that's all right. God can work things out. I took away this lesson, and I'm going to go back to my text. I took away this lesson from the quarterback's story was, it don't make no difference where God puts you. God can do what he going to do wherever he puts you. It might not be at Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, or South Carolina, but it might be at a little no-name college in the SEC, Vanderbilt. God don't need a powerhouse team in order to do what God gonna do. God can take an underdog, and some of y'all been an underdog for situation. You gonna have peace in your life, you gotta know God. Let me give you the second thing. If you're gonna have peace in your life, you gotta trust God. It sounds easy, but trusting God ain't easy. And I don't really want to be repetitive, but the word says, trust in the Lord with all thy heart, lean not to your own understanding. To trust God means trust in the Lord with all thy heart, lean not. And see, if you start using your understanding, you're not trusting God. And if you're leaning to your own understanding, trying to figure out how God gonna do it, when God gonna do it, you're not trusting God. Because when you trust God, you don't know how he gonna do it, when he gonna do it, and you don't even know if he gonna do it. You just want him to, but you trust him to do what is best. It's gonna work out for your good and for his glory. You gotta trust the Lord with all your heart, and lean not to your own. I don't know how he's gonna do it. I don't know when he's gonna do it. And Clyde, I don't even know if he's gonna do it. But I'm gonna be like the three Hebrew boys. If he don't do it, he's still God. That's what it means to trust in the Lord. Don't know if, when, or if. But them boys said, if he don't do it. Not that he can't, but if he don't. And that word in that verse is he's still able. That's what it means to trust God. And it means that when disappointment comes, when you don't get the desired outcome and desired results, you can still come to church. You can still believe. You can still have faith. You still don't give up. And then I gotta close, but I'm gonna give you this last thing, and I really wanted to kind of deal with this one because I've been down this road 100 times with you, because I'm going to speak to 90% of people in here. If you're gonna have peace in your life, you have to trust the process. And I want to spend a little time here explaining this to you. You see, you got to trust the process, because God determines the process. He determines the outcome, but God determines what you go through to get where he's trying to take you. You don't like it, but you got to trust the process. The process was in the text, they were singled out. The process was they were taken before the king. The process is they were sentenced to be burned in the fiery furnace. Process. Unpleasant. Unexpected. And some of y'all are in the process. You mad as HELL. Because you ready to be out of this stuff. You trying to figure out why. I was teaching Bible study Wednesday talking about faith in uncertain times, and I was telling them, Christians, you always on the rough side of the mountain. I mean, at a day in your life as a Christian, you ain't gonna be climbing up the rough side of the mountain. But you gotta trust the process. Don't none of us like the process. There was a new drug I called Ozempic. Y'all know what that is. Ozempic is you can skip the process and get straight to your fit and fine self. Without changing your diet, without exercise. Ozempic makes you bypass the process and you can get slim, fit, and fine just by sticking yourself in the side, and you lose weight instantaneously, and the fat just melts away, bypassing the process. But the problem with that is, it's some unintended consequences. Because when you bypass the process, you put other things at harm's. And so many people want to bypass, they want the cheap way. The easy way. The way you get in shape is fitness, exercise, and diet. That's the best way. Ozempic. Oprah Winfrey claims she done lost all that weight. Yeah, you lost it. Ozempic. Process. Trust the process. And it ain't easy. It ain't pleasant. And boy, you're going to shed some tears as you go through the... Man, I'm close. Man, I tell you, you trust God's process, God, man. And God, sometimes he'll send you the long way around. He'll send you the long way through. And sometimes the answer is a long way off. But you got to trust the process. And so this story ends by giving us an indication of what God does for us when we trust the process, when we trust him, and when we know him. Because listen, what's going on earth, Nebuchadnezzar heated up the fiery furnace. The people that opened the entrance to it, they burn up, and now the fiery furnace is at its hottest, and they throw them in. That's what's going on earth. But there's something also going on in heaven. But can it in heaven? The scriptures tell us in a dramatic fashion that God dispatches his own son. and says they in the fire. But I'm going to deliver them out of the fire, but I need you to go aid them and comfort them and get in the fire with them. And I can tell you, my brothers and sisters, you shouldn't mind getting in any fire if he'll get in the fire with you. And some of y'all been in some fiery situations, and you can testify when you looked around, he was in there with you. And the Lord was in there with him. And then I really thought it interesting, Josh, and I was reading this text. And you got to really read the text sometime, because interesting what the text says, and I'm closing, because they went in there. The text intentionally says they had clothes on. The text intentionally says they were bound with rope. The text intentionally says that when they went in there, they did not smell like smoke, and their clothes were not burned. Now, I don't know how God did it, and you don't either. whatever I put flesh on fire, it burns. It cooks. And one time I was trying to burn old mail, and I put too much gas on it, and the gas got on my clothes, and my clothes caught on fire, and some of the hair on my face was singed by the flame. But here these three boys, they went into a fiery furnace heated 10 times hotter. And when they went in, now I want you to see what God does, and he'll do it for you too. And this is descriptive, but there's some prescriptive lesson. These boys went in tied up with their clothes on. And God got in the fire, and the ropes that were tied to their feet and their hands, it burned off, but didn't burn their skin. Clothes was not seen. And the text intentionally said when they came out, they didn't even smell like smoke. They've been in a fiery furnace situation, but they came out like they went in. Because that's what God will do for you. I ain't going to holler, but I sure want to. Let me tell you, God will get you in some stuff. Ooh, but how many know he'll get you out of some stuff? He'll lead you into some dark places. But won't he bring you out of some? I sure feel like preaching. Because I've been through the fire. Been through the flood. Broken into pieces. But through it all, I remember. God will. Some of y'all can testify he done brought you through. Ain't it the truth what I'm saying? Ain't God brought you through? And won't he bring you through? And I'm glad he'll bring you through. Because I've been in some fiery furnaces. But God brought me through. I'm glad, and I can testify I know God. I can testify that I trust God. I can testify I made it through the process. And I come to testify, won't he do it? I said, won't he do it? Won't he do it? Won't he open doors set in your face? Won't he do it? Won't he be water in dry places? Bread when you're hungry. I said, won't he do it? I need somebody to testify that the Lord will do it. Do I have somebody that will just say he will make a way? Won't he do it, my brothers and sisters? I can tell you he will make a way. The door of the church is open. The door is open. Won't he do it? It's satirical now for people to say, won't he do it? But I can tell you as a living witness, won't he do it? He will make a way. He will open doors. He will be water when you're thirsty and bread when you get hungry. God will make a way, and God will do it. Every head bowed and every eye closed. The door of the church is open. If you're here today and you don't know Jesus Christ as your personal Savior, I'm telling you,